My first one, it was just how to handle bullies, and as you can tell, I'm not at my place. I'm actually at a hotel, a motel, in an inn. So there's gonna be some background noise. I'm sorry about that. I can't do anything about it. I can't be doing this in my room because my family's asleep. But I feel like doing some things because I've just kind of been itching to do it. When you're driving in a car, riding in a car and you're not driving and you're just in the passenger seat, sometimes you just have to check up on things. So I'll watch a little bit of YouTube. Like, there's only so much I can watch. Bad reception. There's a lot of YouTube or a lot of Twitter tweets that I look at. Some statement posts and some Gab posts. But everything on Gab goes to Twitter, so I'm just always looking at Twitter anyway. So tonight, I saw it twice actually. So it was really weird. And this is kind of a thing that's been going on for years. And people are just kind of saying, man, this is like Huxley's Brave New World. Or, hey, man, our current way of things are going. It's more like 1984 from George Orwell. So what I want to do is go over a couple of things, and I don't want it to just be me. So if people want to join, feel free to join. At 11 p.m. Eastern Time. Right now it's almost 10 p.m. James will have Man to Talk with James, so we'll probably switch over then. But one thing that I want to do is show some things that I found, and the discussion continues. I saw, I think I can't remember his name, but he did a tweet today, I think, about who was more right, Huxley or Orwell. And he was saying they're both pretty much right. So I'll go ahead and switch this over to what I'm going to share. And let's see. So hopefully this doesn't screw things up. Share screen, computer sound. And okay, so I zoomed in a bit. Now, this is on bibliocap.org back in 2013, but as you can see, these images are from May 2009. I can scroll to the bottom. There's a little bit disclaimer. So, Stuart McMillan's webcomic adapts and updates Postman's famous book-length essay Amusing Ourselves to Death, which argues that Aldous Huxley's vision of the future in Brave New World was ultimately more accurate than the one proposed by George Orwell in 1984. So what I'd like to do is just kind of look at each little snippet, and this is where live chat, you guys can actually participate and give your thoughts on whether, hey, is this more Huxley, or is this more Orwell, or is it a little bit of both? So go ahead and give me your feedback. Oh shoot, I just realized you guys can't see because OBS issues again. Crap. Let me try to see if everything is working. Okay, everything's working again, so I'll do it the other way. I'm going to share this way. Okay, there we go. So I'll go over again. What we're going to go over is a webcomic. Someone who actually posted in 2013 in May about Stuart McMillan's webcomic, which adapts and updates Postman's famous book-length essay Amusing Ourselves to Death, which argues that Aldous Huxley's vision of the future in Brave New World was ultimately more accurate than the one proposed by George Orwell in 1984. And so, like I said, feel free to see which one you think is more correct in today's 2018. What Orwell feared were those who would ban books. What Huxley feared was that there would be no reason to ban a book, or there would be no one who would want to read one. For me, I would have to say, and let's go ahead and minimize this a little, or bring it out just a little bit, so you can see a little bit both. And let's go ahead and do that. So I would say I would have to agree with Huxley more. We don't really ban books. There's some books being banned. There are some censorship going on, especially with social media and things like that. But you know what? I think that's just something that we see. People who are pretty much watching what I do, watching independent media, and mostly, and notice that there are a lot of censorship going on because there isn't a lot of transparency. But as far as books go, they really aren't banning books or literature. You could probably write everything that's going on, probably publish a book of WikiLeaks with a lot of stuff there. It probably wouldn't be banned. But right now, people are more looking into comic books or just comics or 50 Shades of Grey, that type of stuff. They really don't care about the some of the more important literature out there. Now, another one is Orwell feared those who would deprive us of information. Huxley feared those who would give us so much that we would be reduced to passivity and egotism. And I see a little bit of both because we aren't getting a lot of information. Our government is not transparent. We would request Freedom of Information Acts. I mean, it has that right there, information. And sorry, we don't get it. We don't get any of it. We get heavily redacted information that doesn't give us anything. So I would say, yeah, that does occur. Now, Huxley feared that they would give us so much information that we just wouldn't know what to do with it. And that does happen too. So, for example, look at the news. There's so much news out there from mainstream media. You can't really digest it all. You can't really look through it all. They don't give you sources. You try to look for those sources, you can't find it. So you basically resort down to, okay, let's find journalists in non-mainstream media to give us their non-biased take on it. And that's where we are. That's where we are now. We call that independent media. They call it fake news. So it's difficult because we just get so much information. We just have to pick and choose which ones that we want to keep digging into. And even the people that I really enjoy listening to and watching, they're commenting on news, journalists who are going through leaks and information like that. I barely have time to do all that. I barely have time to watch. I barely have time to read. If they put it on paper, yeah, I think I could probably read it because it's just a lot faster for me to process information by reading it. But it's still the time it takes to write things out to very detailed analysis. Just for the journalist who goes through that, or the reporter, it's just time consuming on their part. And most people don't really pay attention to it that much. They would rather watch it, have like 5 minute snippet about the information being presented with music effects, sound effects, and illustrations or images. I mean, I do that too. I'll look at YouTube videos, and if it's like an hour and a half, like who has time for an hour and a half? So, but the thing is, sometimes I do have an hour and a half when I'm actually working just to listen to it. But I can't also pay attention visually either, so I know I'm missing some things. So I would say, yeah, for that part, both are true. So far, it's kind of 50-50, a little bit advantage towards Huxley. Orwell feared the truth would be concealed from us. Yeah, that's true. Huxley feared the truth would be drowned in a sea of irrelevance. And I see that too. Look at just the DNC lawsuit and what the DNC did. WikiLeaks pretty much pointing it out to us, and it's just, we know that they're concealing stuff from us, and the truth is out there for the entire population to see and notice. But are they doing anything about it? No. They're still on mainstream media's narrative of Russia, Russia, Russia. So yeah, it's the sea of irrelevance going on. It's still what it is. It's, for most people, they're still sleeping on it, I guess. Orwell feared we would become a captive culture. Huxley feared we would become a trivial culture preoccupied with some equivalent of the feelies, the orgy porgy, and the centrifugal bumpy. I probably ruined that. So what this is basically saying is that we would be, Orwell feared we would just be kind of chained to one type of society or culture, and we would fit within it and leave no room for freedom. We're just kind of enslaved to it. Well, Huxley feared that it didn't matter. There'd just be so much culture thrown out at you, and that you could pick any one of it, and or just jump around to a couple, and you're pretty much your time is consumed by it, and it really don't have anything to actually occupy yourself for something that's more important. You know what? I'm gonna have to give it up to Huxley on this one. I agree with him more. We really don't see Orwell's captive culture. We actually see Huxley's trivial cultures, where everyone's kind of preoccupied with stuff. I mean, you still see people preoccupied with comic books, Star Wars, like movies, things like that, music, and gaming. Like even that first one back in 2009 where these drawings were had. Look at that. There's someone playing video games. People are focused on social media, Facebook. They spend all their time on that. They don't really do much of it else. And we're probably guilty of that too, because this is kind of our movement. This is our new battleground, is on the web, in the digital realm. People are still watching movies, TV, culture, Netflix, reality shows. People are still collecting things, maybe not Beanie Babies anymore. They're collecting still material possessions of whatever that they want. People are still health conscious, looking towards bettering their physical appeal. That's been going on for ages, and it's still going on. People are still buying into this. If they saved, they could end up being pretty much just as rich if they just focus money into it. But anyways, I would say this one wins this part. So if we're tallying this up, I'd say, yeah, Huxley is kind of more correct so far. 2018. As Huxley remarked in Brave New World Revisited, the civil libertarians and rationalists who are ever on the alert to oppose tyranny fail to take into account man's infinite appetite for distractions. Okay, yeah. Uh, I am. We see that. We saw that in 2016. We saw that with Bernie. We saw it that. Um, we saw all the stuff that happened, and people were just distracted by Trump. Of course, that didn't help that mainstream media just kind of gave him free, free coverage, like 24/7. An empty podium for Trump when you could have Bernie Sanders, who's gaining momentum, beating Hillary Clinton in the Democratic primary, who's giving his concession speech. Meanwhile, you've got an empty podium of Trump about to appear. Okay. Oh, and then rather than kind of go over all the stuff that DNC did, they'd rather focus on Russiagate. In 1984, people are controlled by inflicting pain. In Brave New World, people are controlled by inflicting pleasure. In short, Orwell feared that what we hate will ruin us. Huxley feared that what we love will ruin us. It's a little bit of both, I would say. But you know what? I think Huxley again wins on this point because the numbers are small. The ones who are here, we fear in a way. Just look at people who appear on our show, people who are truth telling, and they're hiding behind the screen. They don't show their face, they don't show their name. That has to do with fear. I'm sorry. There's a lot of people who who don't do it. There's just a few people who will. I'm not afraid. I know other people who might say they're not afraid, but you know what? They won't come out. They'll make excuses. They'll say, "Oh, you don't want to look at my ugly mug, dude. You can't look as ugly as I do." So that's no excuse. Um, the reason why you show your face, show your name, is tell them you're not afraid. But here's the thing: it doesn't matter that I'm showing them that I'm not afraid because there's just so few of us. On the other hand, you have everyone else who would rather watch. Let's see, who's live right now that I'm subscribed to? Tim Black is live. Who else is live? Yeah, really. So, guys, people would. I mean, I'm sure there's the Winter Olympics. I'm sure people are watching that. There's if Jimmy Dore was on, people would be watching Jimmy Dore. Whoever your favorite independent media is, the most charismatic. And you guys are though not you guys because you guys are actually watching here and watching me for some reason. You'd rather hear them commenting over of what's going on in mainstream media's news coverage. So it's just kind of a big echo chamber. And it's necessary because you really need to keep up with news and different viewpoints. But again, it's basically what makes you what you love about it. Like if you had someone making lies seem very entertaining and funny, I would probably watch it than someone who's just making a very dreary, truthful video. Okay, hold on. Someone's joined. Let me switch over. Slow. Hey, Garden, how's it going? Hey, Gardner, are you there?
What's up, dude?
Hey, how you doing?
Not bad.
So what?
Some comments on 1984 and Brave New World, and some of your other fucking comments.
I'm all ears. Let's go for it. I think.
I'm kind of working at the moment,
Yeah,
so like at points during this conversation, you're just gonna have to carry on.
sure.
I just tuned in, so what's your overall take on the state of modern society versus Brave New World in 1984?
I would say that it's more Huxley's version of Brave New World, although, um, I mean, that's where it's kind of patterning and going towards. But it pretty much started off um, with Orwell's 1984. So they're trying to get to be everyone on the same page, going one way. But I think they found out that with so much technology, so many people, it's just you can't keep that many people in control with a smaller population, no matter how powerful. So the only other alternative is to go the other way and flood with misinformation, with just entertainment, with um, trivial things that really aren't important. And so I think Huxley is kind of where we're heading towards, not necessarily 1984.
The people in the chat are complaining about my mic. Check, check. Can you guys hear me now?
Let's see. Let me see if I can increase the sound level of the desktop audio.
On my end, I don't know.
Yep. Okay. Keep going.
Too low still. Too low still. Too low still.
Oh.
Too low still. Says Zox.
Okay. Let me increase it. Of course, if it increases on my end, I think.
Check, 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 check.
Is that better, everyone?
Check 1, 2.
That's really loud for me, but as long as they can hear it, that's good. I, th-
Check, check. I'm not getting any response from them.
I can. I think you're good. My audio meter for OBS is good, so you should be good.
It says better, but still too low.
All right, let me add it some more.
Let me see.
That's right. I'll end up going.
Options.
Okay, now try.
Check, check.
Maybe I'll give it a.
Check 1, 2.
Oh, I'll add some gain to it. So let's see.
Check 1, 2. Check 1, 2.
Okay, try talking now.
Check, 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 check. Well, I've got a headset on, Zox. Like, I don't know whether it's on my end or what. Is it any better? You guys can hear me? Is it good enough?
I increased the gain, so that should help.
All right. So, anyways, have you read either book?
Not for a long time. I mean, when I was a kid, I used to read everything, but again, now I don't read anything anymore. And so,
I
yeah,
would say Huxley, that Brave New World reflects more of what the modern world is. And what we want to do is avoid degenerating into 1984, where all pretenses of normal society are put aside.
hmm
They don't bother with drugging people. They don't bother with trying to make them happy.
hmm
I can easily see us descending into a 1984 scenario. But as it stands now, it's entertainment, drugs, and I'm referring specifically to American society. Okay, there's a lot of people in the world who are either under a more 1984 type example, or live like you know live in a situation that has nothing to do with either of the two novels. So when we talk about this, we have to bear in mind that we're really only talking about the United States here. A lot of these ideas can't be applied outside of the U.S.
True. Um,
So I mean, what were some of your other points?
uh, let's go back. So I have to. You're gonna have to look at YouTube. You can keep it muted.
Chat, you're muted, dude.
Oh shit. Yeah. So keep a look at your YouTube. I think we're almost done. Um, I have to switch it back through OBS, but you won't need to. Your audio will go through on
Okay,
Zoom. So okay. So the next one, I think that was it. So pretty much that. I mean, I ended on this that in 1984, it's influenced by pain and hate. Rather, the influence for Huxley's is Brave New World is by inflicting pleasure and love.
Well, it's the classic carrot and stick dichotomy. Huxley's novel represents the carrot. Orwell's represents the stick as the method to control society. Another
Yep.
interesting thing about Brave New World was the influence of corporatism. I don't know if you discussed that,
Not.
but Ford Motor Company plays like a big role in 1984, and
Yep.
people worship Henry Ford pretty much,
Yep.
and they have orgies in his name, and they do drugs in his name, and like they do all this other stuff.
Yep.
And it goes through how they raise children as well with that I don't know if you remember, but there's that stupid ball game that everyone plays where you throw the ball in some kind of tower and it spins out one of the holes and you got to catch it. And it's such a meaningless game, and it's presented as such. And of course it's a metaphor for the more complicated sports that we play,
Mhm.
except he intentionally makes it so absurd as to provide an obvious comparison to what we
Yeah. It,
do. As
does
far
does it
Go ahead.
remind you of what's that sport in Harry Potter? Uh,
Quidditch.
yeah, Quidditch. I
Dude,
mean,
I saw some guys playing that. Like, go on. Sorry.
no, no. I just thought it's silly because it's basically a normal sport, right? You get points, and it's static amount of points that you gain each time you score, and then all of a sudden they throw a curveball, and you're going after the snitch, and talk about that. It's called a snitch. you know, um, you're trying to catch a snitch, and pretty much it doesn't matter how far ahead the other team is. You catch the snitch, your team wins. I mean, what's the entire point of the other part of the game if it all boils down to that snitch part, right? I just
I don't know, to pretend like you're masturbating because that's what it looks like. It's such a visually absurd sport. Like, I can't believe that. And you see some serious guys out there. I've seen some videos of some fucking athletes. They're serious. They're out there playing it. They've got like a broomstick crammed between their legs, and they're gripping it as if their life depended
yeah.
on it. It's very it's a disturbing sport to
And
watch.
and what's the entire point? Because you can't fly, and that's like the whole point of Quidditch is being able to fly on the broomstick. So it's just yeah,
Is that how it was played? I've never read the Harry Potter stories.
yeah. It's it's yeah. It's I mean it's for kids, right? So it's games just so kids can be kids find normal sports boring because it's the same formula. Nothing exciting happens like a like all of a sudden game changes. There's nothing that happens like that. So I think that's why the author did that. But it just sounds like what you did. It's just I don't. It's just I don't want to talk about Quidditch. Uh,
No one does. I think the real reason, of course, why it's popular, because if you introduce this game to kids and they had no context, they didn't know what it was all about, I'm sure some would play it, but it wouldn't be popular. I mean, the real reason why it's popular is because the Harry Potter stories have become a part of popular culture,
yeah,
and people are fucking cheap. So they like to do, even as kids, people are sheep, and you know
yeah.
they
Oh,
get something from popular culture and they start doing it regardless of the quality of the activity.
yeah. So to this point, there's something I just tweeted, but it's something that was found a while ago, and I'm going to show you guys real quick on. Dang it! There we go. And here's where we are, and that's and I mean I'm guilty of it. Yeah. Um, the thing is, let's see. I'm gonna switch to YouTube. So if you want to switch to YouTube, there's a joke. This happened probably sometime in November uh, or October, actually October 19th. So there's a poster with Black Panther, and on it are two actors, and it's the guy who played Bilbo Baggins and the guy who did the acting for Gollum and the voiceover. And so someone replied and kind of went semi-viral because he says they're the token white guys, not like so it's kind of a play on words like token white,
Yeah,
you
I
know,
saw
like
that
Tolkien.
post.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but yeah, we've gotten to the point where we can make jokes like this and people will kind of will get it instantly. Um, we do some type of joke that's like political, people will be like, "What? I don't get it," because people aren't paying attention to the political mess unless it's by mainstream media, right? So it's we make references to Trump is doing this. Oh well, Obama was doing this, or Hillary was doing this, and it just goes by people's heads. You talk to them about that poster, that joke, almost like 90% of them will get that joke. So this kind of goes into kind of the point that Huxley makes. It's uh, there's just so much culture, subculture, it's just different entertainment genres that it's
Well, in Brave New World, they basically eliminated all subcultures. There was this one overweening culture that dictated your life from pretty much birth to death. I
mm,
mean, people were grown in vats, and then like they were led through very specific lifestyles, and then at some point they were, you know, well, at birth they were also divided up by social class. Like while you were still in the tube, you were either at alpha, beta, you know, blah blah blah, and they would genetically engineer you to be such. So there were no subcultures in Huxley's Brave New World, except for what's his ass, who was like tried to flee the society. I can't
mm,
remember his name, but there were small groups of people. But for the most part, there was no subcultures within the wider society. You know, and if we look at Quidditch versus this other that whatever the hell that other game was, I
yeah,
can't remember the name of it. But you know, again, this is a top-down activity. This is an activity that both activities were presented to us top-down. I mean, Quidditch isn't something that the people came up with and started playing.
mm-hmm,
It was, you know, the side thing that an author invented, and then, you know, corporations and communications companies started spreading the idea around as a way to promote the book. And somehow it caught on. So, I mean, you have that comparison there as well
yeah.
between you know, Brave New World and Harry Potter.
Yeah, it's become very formulaic. I mean, if you talk about commercials, what are the most popular commercials? They say that there's usually five things that you want to put in a commercial where people will pay attention. It's like have a baby and there's a baby in the commercial. You have animals, cute animals in the commercial. You have a like a very sexy woman who's like partially nude or very exotic, just like the sex sells thing. And there's like I think there's two others, but I can't remember. But yeah, it's pretty much have one of those five or all five of them in a commercial, and you're gonna have like a pretty popular commercial. Uh,
Well, and it goes beyond that too. It goes into lighting, it goes into sound. There are certain sounds and certain forms of lighting that will produce emotions.
yeah.
There are colors that will produce emotions. I mean, people wonder, they're like, It's a 30-second commercial. How could they have spent 500,000 or $1 million making it? It doesn't have any stars in it. Like, there's nothing there. And it's because of, like, they're paying consultants.
Hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
And these consultants, like, a lot of them are scientists who belong in the field of sociology and psychology and psychiatry rather than advertising. They belong in fields where they could actually be of use to society. But instead, like, the pay is so much better working as a consultant for an advertising agency on the shit. So they pay these consultants, they buy this ultra expensive equipment, and that's how it comes out to be like that. But there's all kinds of sideways into your brain, all kinds of workarounds that most people are just unaware of, and the message gets into people's brains. They watch these fucking things like for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours over their lifetime, and it produces certain patterns of behavior and ways of thinking.
Yeah.
So, like, that also leads to the homogenization of culture.
Yeah. Zoc said one of them was humor, and that's correct. Like, if you kind of think back of like your favorite sitcom episode, you can't remember it 100%. I mean, it's just, of course, it's just too long. But you have a commercial, and one of the commercials that I remember, like, think about the most interesting man in the world commercials. People remember those. Um, the one that I remember is like the Foster's beer commercial. Um, and the funny thing is, it's not even like a beer in Australia, but you'd have uh, a surfboard, someone on a surfboard just kind of biffing it, and you'd have someone in Australian accent say tourist, and then you'd see that beer slam down. Foster's Australian for beer. So you'd have a piece of steak just sizzling on a plate, and then you see someone put down like a piece of parsley. You'll hear the word salad, and then you get that Foster's Australian for beer. So I remember the commercials perfect. There was a couple. Like, you see a big great white shark swimming in the waters, and then you hear the word guppy, and you got the Foster's Australian for beer. So I remember those commercials fondly because they had humor in it, and this is probably before I could even drink beer, and it's a beer commercial. So and like my favorite favorite sitcom stuff. I mean, Futurama is one of my favorite. Uh, I can't remember an entire episode like 100%, even though I've watched it maybe like 10 or 20 times. It's just you only remember little snippets of things, and that's where commercials get it right. They feature that snippet that's really, really that you won't forget, and
Yeah, and you have to wonder why. Like, I mean, part of it is because, I mean, a 20 or 30-minute narrative will, in a sense, be harder to remember than a 30-second statement about something, no matter what you're talking about, whether it's advertising or whatever, you know, at least in theory.
mhm,
But again, it comes down to people using a lot of these psychological tricks. I mean, that's why you remember, is because it has worked its way into the back part of your brain somehow,
yeah,
and they've spent X $100,000 doing it.
yeah,
It's just better, if you ask me, just to tune out from ads as much as possible.
yeah.
Try to stay away from them.
It's kind of what I did. But sometimes I feel like it's like the Matrix. Remember when he's back into the Matrix after his training sessions, and then he's there in that restaurant. They had good noodles. Oh, I know. It should be about okay now. We're gonna have
Okay, I
hiccups.
couldn't hear. I couldn't hear most of what you said.
Okay. Repeating. It's just sorry. I'm at the Wi-Fi of the hotel, so either it's getting bad or the deep state's zeroed in on me. Just kidding. So what I'm saying is like we kind of want to kind
I'll be
of.
following you. Where are you at, anyways?
I'm not gonna let you know that. You're gonna just report it to TYT and Jenks, and then I'm gonna get blown up like an airplane. Just
I
kidding.
caught about half of that. I caught TYT. Like it's something about Jenks and blowing up.
Never mind. Um, yeah, I'm getting drop frames because okay, so the connection isn't holding up very well. Keep going. I think I'll try to limit what's on, and that should help.
Check, check.
Let's see. Okay, now we're good. Okay, we're good. What I'm trying to say is sometimes we have to kind of so we're not so depressed all the time. It's just plug ourselves back into the matrix or a program of the matrix, kind of like that lady in red and that mouse looking guy. Um, and remember when Neo's in the back of the car when he's first plugged back into the actual matrix, and they pass a restaurant and he goes, they had good noodles. You know, that's kind of like us. It's like, yeah, we kind of remember fondly like the mainstream media stuff or like cable and all that stuff, but we realized it was just kind of it was fake. It wasn't really important either.
Yeah, and again, it's more brainwashing that causes that effect in people. Like something that's kind of related to that. Like if you remember from Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome, right? Remember, did you have you ever seen that?
Yeah, but I can't remember. I always remember the first half of the movie. I never remember the second half.
Well, do you remember those crazy kids, right?
Hmm.
Now, remember how they had that stick that they tried to pretend was a television? Do you remember that?
Yeah, yeah.
And remember how they freaked out like when like someone mentioned video. They're like video. So again, like it's programming, it's culture programming.
Yeah,
And we associate these things with our childhood, we associate a money making tool.
yeah.
There's nothing there.
And we also see it as like even as kids, maybe even as adults, someone gets something like imagine Google Glass, right? That might be the most recent thing, or the Oculus Rift. Someone gets something, everyone just kind of goes in and says, "Hey, let me look at it. Let me have a try." Everyone gets excited for it, and uh, that that's just kind of our for just a general population to general reaction is to go check it out. Something different, something new, especially something that you probably can't afford or don't have um, like a special. You don't have the means to get at it. Like most people with Google Glass, they had to be a developer. Same thing if you want like Oculus Rift. If you want it first, you need to be a developer. Get that developer's kit. So before the general public gets it, there's usually certain people who either can afford it or who have connections to it get to it, and then everyone just are just more interested in it because it's kind of a rarity. You can't get it by normal means, and so you just draw a crowd. You become the popular person, not based on what you do, but based on what you have. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, and that phenomena is as old as humanity. Like, whether we're talking about whatever technology or whatever, back in the peasant days, I'm sure if someone got a new horse or something like that, like the whole neighborhood showed up.
Yeah. Hey,
This is a new type of cow.
yeah. Check out the saddle and the hooves, man.
This one has a spot on it.
Yeah. Like this horseshoe has some wicked grooves. Like you think you could jump over that tree stump? Nah, not without these horseshoes.
Yep, this horse can plow for 2 hours longer a day because of these shoes. So we have advertising that taps into that part of human nature, of course. That's one of the more, I mean, that's what they all do.
Yeah.
And that one's kind of on the surface. Like almost everyone, if they think about it, can realize that.
Yeah.
But what they don't like, the kind of things they don't understand or don't realize are things about like the color blue. Like your brain, most people's brains are programmed almost from birth to react to certain colors in a certain way.
Hmm.
So the kind of information and programming that is, presented through the use of color and sound and stuff, most people, they're just not going to realize it, man. And that leads again to this Brave New World effect of homogenization of culture, like, no spontaneity.
Hmm.
Like things don't generate spontaneously. Like one of the reasons we see this recycling of music and culture from decade to decade. Like you see, every once in a while, an '80s craze comes back, or
Yeah.
a '60s or a '70s craze comes back.
Hmm.
Again, it's just a money making tool, but they're looking for that core association.
Yeah. And that's why we have like a lot of remixes using the old stuff, new stuff. You also have in the movie world just remakes over and over and over again. Like, do we really need Ghostbusters again? Do we need Karate Kid again? Um, Maybe it's not that they're running out of ideas. They just know that there's more likelihood of getting people back in, uh, dialed back in, or connected back in, plugged back in, whatever. Just using nostalgia, maybe.
Well, and in like Brave New World, like the people don't have a role in the decisions, like as far as how their culture progresses, or increasingly less so. Some of this comes through consolidation of media. Like if five media companies own everything and they're all pushing the same like type of shit, you don't have really a choice so much. I mean, nowadays it's not as bad as Brave New World is now, but it could get to that point
Yeah.
where you know, like if we look at the messaging, we've bitched about the messaging, the SJW messaging Disney has done throughout the comics, throughout the movies,
Yeah.
throughout the music,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, the consolidation of power in media is going to lead to those Brave New World type effects.
And also public perception, because it doesn't matter what the real public perception is, as long as they're saying, "Hey, this is what's trending, or this is what's viral." When necessarily it may not be what's really the most trendy, more viral thing out there. Um, as because it's kind of like say they're only at like whatever trending or is viral is 100,000 views or something. But there's something out there that's 250 or a million. But then that 250,000 views that there are 50,000 or 100,000, whatever, that low amount is being viral or trending because so many people see mainstream media. They all go out and view it, and so all of a sudden it's 500,000, 1 million. So of course it's going to be viral and trending because they're going to see, what's this that's trending and going viral? And so you see it once they report on it, it just jumps and it does become viral and trending, you know?
Yeah, they're not, these things aren't coming, the culture isn't being generated by the citizens.
Yeah.
And it's a example of that might be because I don't know what the numbers are on it now. It just came out. But that second Cloverfield that they released on Netflix, you know what I'm talking about?
Hmm.
There's some new Cloverfield movie.
Cloverfield paradox. Look,
I can't stand J.J. Abrams, man. So
yeah.
maybe I'm biased against it, but
No,
you know, I saw that pushed and pushed and pushed across multiple
yeah.
platforms.
The reason why I stay in touch with pop culture nerd stuff, oh, not only is it entertaining, but I'm starting to see a lot more people just kind of seeing what's going on with their favorite stuff, their genre, their thing that they grew up with, and the current spin on it, the current change, and they're not on board with it. And I love seeing them just kind of flip that switch, just kind of like when we flipped that switch in 2016. And it's fascinating. It's great. I think our next allies might not be political, but might be because of people who just can't be entertained anymore because they realize all the bullshit that happens in the entertainment world, the propaganda, entertainment culture, I guess you could say. That's just my opinion or thought, but I just think it's fascinating that you just see so much analysis in media, in entertainment culture. It's bigger than it is in our little political uh, commentary stuff.
Well, that makes like that's kind of the reason why why I listen to diversity in comics.
Yep.
Yeah, because like not so much because I agree with what he says, well, or that I even follow comics anymore because I used to follow comics, but I stopped years ago.
Yeah.
But because of the fact that, you know, that he is rebelling against the paradigm that these comic companies are trying to set up.
Yeah.
And as far as this type of this obsessive media analysis that it seems more and more people are getting into, right? Like you said, it's a type of cannibalization. Like we're kind of self-cannibalizing in that sense, and that sounds like a negative at first, and it can be and can be turned even more into a negative. But at the state that it's in now, I see it as a positive. It's like putting maggots into a wound and letting them eat out all the rotten flesh and then taking them out. I mean, the key at the end is to make sure that all the maggots are out.
Yeah.
But it's kind of that process. It's a cutting away of the rot, even though it is kind of a narcissistic type of self reflection that our society is engaged in. We're obsessed with viewing ourselves and our culture, and it leads to the neglect of other more important things going on in the world. But I wonder if this is a part of a necessary part of the process to get rid of some of the rot, which I see the rot as a result of consolidation of power
Yeah.
and influence.
The I'm not sure about fantasy. Yeah. So fantasy and sci-fi, they have one connection, and it's just um, the representation of a world that can be. Um, and in sci-fi, it's more of where our future, where we can be in our future in humankind. Sci-fi, fantasy is kind of more like uh, just almost the same way. It's just how they kind of fight the same things that we do, not scientifically, but just in a fantasy way with magic or what have you, you know. And I think that we all want to get to that end point where we're exploring, we're being we grow. The All our problems that are current are just like, ah, yeah, we solved them like years ago, in the future time, and we're dealing with different things from different cultures, from different civilizations, and just seeing how whether we can contribute to helping them or not, and just showing them how we handled it. But even though we didn't really handle it in real life in current present day, that we just kind of see that glimpse of how we kind of suspect that we're going to handle it, and we kind of agree with it, and we just see the steps that a civilization that's outside of us handles it. And I think that's fascinating. I think that's great because it gives us like a little bit of hope, and saying, okay, yeah, I can see that happening, and it's not necessarily us; it's another culture, another civilization. And I think now it's more. Oh, it gets to sublime happiness, and all you have to do is be I'm with her, right? And it's like, no, that's not how these stories are supposed to be. It just doesn't end happily just because you take an ideological stance of nonsense, I guess. There's logic involved, and there's a story. There's the arc of the hero. These archetypes of stories that lasted millennia, and to destroy those archetypes is something just that doesn't follow. I think is where people are complaining, and that's why we just have these drops in people that don't really care about like the newest Star Wars coming out. I mean, can you imagine a point ever aside from the prequels and the next prequels? Like everyone was excited that the prequels were coming. Even after the first one, Phantom Menace, people were still excited about it. And now, 3 movies later, people are like, I don't really care anymore. And I would still watch the original trilogy, just get so excited, just rewatching it, even for the 100th, 200th time.
Well, again, it's J.J. Abrams and Disney, man. Like they've just wrecked the franchise, and it just as far as that specific example goes, the quality of those films has gone down. And people value their archetypes. They value um, familiarity,
Mhm.
right? And what they are you familiar with the uncanny valley? Do you know what that is? All right, the uncanny valley is when you make something just a little bit different, and like when you do that, it makes it look like really freaky, or it makes it look or it makes it seem very strange. Okay, like imagine like you've seen some freaky picture of Santa or something with fangs or something like that. Just something that's a little bit different, and it produces an emotional reaction. Well, what they've done with the Disney films is they haven't used the uncanny valley per se, but they've used a similar phenomena where they make everything just a little bit different, and they try to exploit these old elements. And what it does is the it crashes the feeling of familiarity with people, and it crashes the familiarity. It crashes their sense of comfort with the with the genre.
Mhm.
So it just no longer appeals to them. I mean, they've gone a little bit too far. They've made it just a little bit too different, while at the same time trying to cling to the tropes and the memes of Star Wars.
Yeah,
Like, which one was it where it was basically just a copy of the first one?
that was Force Awakens.
Yeah, but they made it boring. I mean, that film was boring in my opinion. What did you think of it?
Yeah, it was boring. It was like I remember the low moments in movies, not just Star Wars, but in like 80s movies and before some 90s movies. You know how it just wasn't action after action after action. There's like a kind of quiet moment where you could just kind of sit back, just kind of you process just what you saw, that action or whatever sequence it was, and then you're like, okay, that was awesome. You're just kind of like your mind's just kind of relaxed, and all of a sudden you got, oh my gosh, there's this tension going, and you're like, oh man, I don't know what's gonna happen. I'm really rooting for this to happen, except you realize the futileness, the almost like the absurd impossibility of it actually occurring. So like there's a happy ending, and then all of a sudden you see that happen, and you're like, yes, right? Now it's just action after action. You can't process anything. Like you don't get this development that goes on.
Yeah, what they call that the theater of the absurd,
Hmm.
like where you're just like, and there's many types of that, but like one of them is where you just throw as much sensory information at the audience as you can, and you overwhelm them. Like the Transformer movies are
Yeah,
sometimes like that.
that's why I call the newer Star Wars movies just basically Transformers in Star Wars universe. It's the same concept. It looks pretty. You get all that action that people want, but that deepness, that philosophical part, all that other stuff, that's gone. Or It's very, very like minuscule.
I mean, and in sometimes that works, and it usually works in shorter presentations. Like in Tarantino, like did you ever see Grindhouse by Quentin Tarantino?
I haven't seen that.
Well, there's a sequence in there, I think it was Grindhouse, where you've got these racer chicks, right? And they're just doing all kinds of crazy things. And basically it's just one craziness after the next. It's just all sensory. Like, and it works. It's fine. It's exciting. But when you take a legacy property like Star Wars, something that people are invested in the plot, or you take like Star Trek or any of these things, and you try to do the same thing with that,
Hmm.
it turns audiences off. They're not there to have their senses overwhelmed. They're there to like see the people that they love, the characters that they love, like the universe that they love.
Yeah. Eh, Not necessarily like it doesn't have to be that way. Um, and what's ironic is, oh man, there's so many irony. Like if you think about after the Last Jedi, the two people that are still alive is Harrison Ford and Mark Hamill, and they're sorry, spoilers. They're both dead in the Star Wars series. But the one person who is still in the movies is Princess Leia, and of course Carrie Fisher died. I just find that ironic. So how they're gonna do it is I don't know. And it doesn't make any sense. But um, what I wanted to ask you is, if you had to pick versus Huxley's A Brave New World or Orwell's 1984, of which one to live in, which one would you want to live in?
Well, of course, Brave New World. Like, there's no way I'm living in it.
Okay.
I'll have orgies and do drugs all day and like whatever.
Yeah.
Like, hopefully, I'm not like a Delta and they're not sticking me down in a sewer or something.
Yeah.
But even those people have like their own advantages because they're genetically bred to be like dumb and unfeeling, and they're still allowed to have orgies and do drugs. So,
Um, like I think everyone's answer is going to be the same, but um, is it? Does that mean it's just harder to fight? I mean, more people are acceptable to it because they realize the alternative is 1984. No one wants that, right? So it's like, yeah, just give us this flooding of just sensory overload.
yeah, I see what you mean. Like, a lot of people do give in and they're just like, fuck it. Like, I'm just going to live my life and suck whatever pleasures I can out of it. And that's going to be it.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, you can take that attitude. Sure. Like, you're going to be dead in X number of years. Who knows if there's reincarnation or an afterlife or something. So, but if we assume that there's not, then it doesn't matter. And we can take that philosophy. I mean, it's nihilism, is what it is. It's a
Hmm.
form of nihilism. I mean, self indulgence and debauchery and whatever the hell you want to call it. Like, it is all a form of nihilism. There is no end goal. When you engage in hedonism, usually you're sacrificing the future for the present.
Yeah.
And nihilistic philosophies of all sorts have permeated our society, and that's just one example of it.
Yeah.
Some people, I mean, I can consider myself a type of nihilist, I guess. Some people are really taking offense to it, though. Like, I was watching one of Holly's videos, and she went off. She was like, "These damn low class nihilists," and she's religious too, so she was like,
But,
like these damn atheists, blah blah blah. And she got kind of upset about it. And
yeah.
like, while I don't necessarily agree with what she said, I can understand the sentiment she's getting at. It's ubiquitous, it's everywhere. And it, like, a lot of these philosophies are dragging us down.
Wait, so are you saying that Holly's saying, or is Holly's calling atheists low class nihilists?
Like, she said that nihilism and atheism were low class, and like that she didn't, adhere to them. Like she didn't respect them essentially.
Hmm, interesting. Okay.
Like I forget which video it was, but I'm sure maybe we only have a few people here, but I'm sure someone else saw that video as well. And I don't think that she really meant it 100%. I think that she was just kind of pissed.
Yeah.
And I can understand why she's pissed because these are not necessarily atheism per se,
Yeah.
but nihilism,
Yeah.
you know, is dragging us down.
So yeah, it's so one thing it may be off topic but so listen or watch or basically listen to Coltane, who is a proponent of MGTOW, which is men go their own way. And I made one comment because he did one about uh, something parasitism. It's basically like marriage in effect. It's just one sided that the females just get everything. They're a parasite. They gain all the benefits, males don't. And it did have a good valid uh, viewpoint. Except I mentioned in one comment saying, "Yeah, I agree with it, but right, I live in a marriage which is pretty equal. We it's pretty equal, I would say." And oh man, all the replies and stuff that people are saying. One of them was like, "You don't get MGTOW, or and you shouldn't be posting comments without understanding it." And I'm like, well, or being a proponent of MGTOW. And I'm like, wait, so are you saying I haven't commented on? I was thinking, so I have to understand MGTOW, but I can't understand it here. I can't comment on MGTOW until I become a proponent of MGTOW. But then if I'm going to comment on it, it's not going to be a different viewpoint of MGTOW. It would just be about supporting MGTOW. And it's not logical in a sense. But anyways, that's a whole different thing. He takes the case of a snapshot of marriage in Australia and America and in the UK, not marriage in other cultures, other religions, or even in history. Like marriage changed since 15 years ago as compared to like 50 years ago, even within the same country. So um, can't gather a snapshot of data and use it as statistics to point one perception. And it's just a proponent one this divisive parasitism is just one aspect of mutualism, and there's different forms of mutualism occur in nature and occur in different types of marriages. So that's what I was trying to get at. And man, I got like you know how you get emails of people who leave comments. It's like email. I'm like, what did I just do?
I'm sure like a lot of the MGTOW people would hate this comparison, but they're ideologues, right? And you see the same thing with all ideologues, whether you're talking about people who are obsessed with a certain aspect of culture or whatever. Like they internalize it in such a way, it becomes an emotional attachment to them rather than an idea. They
Yeah,
become emotionally attached to MGTOW. My wife fucked me over, like, and MGTOW saved me, so now I have an attachment to this philosophy. Like it made me feel better.
yeah,
Like, and it just as a side note, as far as MGTOW, like, sure, they make valid arguments, and I agree with you that what they're doing is they are taking a snapshot in time and trying to apply it like to a wider context, and you know whatever but it ignores just the core drive of humanity. There are some people who can live like a monk. There are some people who can live an ascetic lifestyle, but like the vast majority of people are going to be happier if they find a partner that they can be with. And just throwing that idea out of your life is just it's a recipe for unhappiness. It leads you to emailing like a person 100 times over a comment on a YouTube page. Like that's where you're at now, dude.
yeah.
You can thank from MGTOW for that too. So You know,
What's funny is like I was like on not on board. I was like, man, this guy's got some really good presentation. It's like he analyzes it correctly. The math is sound. It's just I like to think outside of the box, and uh, I just think differently. It's just different viewpoint. Everyone has that, and so I was like, okay, what about this? And then rather than talking about this, all I do is just get negative comments. It's like you're an idiot type of stuff. It's like I'm just saying something. And I'm asking a question. Just
you're trying to white knight these girls. I don't like it.
yeah, it's and usually I know when it's some type of ideology when they can't give you answers or logical kind of steps to get at their perspective. It just results in you just don't know what you're talking about. You're an idiot. You just you just don't understand it. You just don't get it. And I'm like, okay, help me understand it. And they're like, you're just too dumb.
It's because they don't understand it, man. Like there are a few, like the people who speak on YouTube, for example, they'll probably understand it to a degree, right? Whereas like some guy who's just bitter about his divorce and signed up with MGTOW, like he doesn't really understand the like it. He just knows that it makes him feel better to be like, fuck it, I'm going on my own.
Yeah,
Like that's all he understands. So, people get emotionally invested in these ideas, and you see it across the board. We see it within our own spheres. I've seen plenty of quote progressive types and hard left types that they're not really thinking. They're just regurgitating ideas that they've heard and inaccurately sometimes, and they're reacting out of emotions. They're not really thinking about ideas.
yeah,
They're like, I was broke when I was growing up, and this has got to change. I feel bad about that. Like, they're not really thinking about it.
yeah,
Why, how and why
yeah.
should we do this?
And this is the weirdest part of my situation. I feel like I got out of poverty 10 years ago, and rather than keeping it going and getting more, I'm actually taking a step back and going almost back towards it. Uh, like, who would give up like sub 200K salary and benefits and all that to live in the middle of nowhere,
Yeah, you're crazy,
making
man.
nothing? Yeah, I might be crazy, but here's my take on it. If I wanted to, I could get back to it. That's the difference. I have that experience. I have that confidence. Knowledge is something you don't lose. Skill, is something you can always brush back up on. And I spend more time learning on my own and actually advancing faster than any corporation out there. So all my prototypes that I've wanted to for the companies to use, they won't adapt it. And then 5 years later, they go, "Hey, we're starting this." I'm like, "I told you guys to start that 5 years ago." And they're going, "Well, I didn't see it." And it's like, "It's here in this email," and you're saying, "No, we're not ready for it yet." And I go, "No, you are ready for it. You guys just don't think you guys are ready for it, and you guys will probably be ready for it in 5 years, but then it'll be too late." And then now it's now. It's like, yeah, they're ready for it, but now it's too late. It kills me.
Yeah, you're not necessarily crazy for giving up, like moving away from that job or whatever. But Nebraska, you're crazy, dude.
Hey, if I could live there, I could live anywhere.
Yeah, you can. There's nothing there, man. There's some cool things around, I guess, but
Yeah, I'll see. It's like moving back to Tatooine. I'll see,
yeah.
see what's there. um, so
Yeah,
what?
so I mean, as far as MGTOW goes, it's a lot of the MGTOW people are very bitter. I wouldn't take what they say very
Hold on.
seriously.
Let's see. So what's going on? Kevin. All right. Hey, Kevin. What's up? Oh, Snark. Hey, Snark. Hey, don't you guys
Hey,
know we're
hey,
we're only on for like 10 more minutes until James starts his. Well, his monologue goes on for 30 minutes, so I guess we can hang out here for 40 minutes. Just
I'm
kidding,
gonna let
James.
you guys take over the I'm gonna stay here, but I've got to finish this up. So
Okay.
keep it on.
Thanks for
The
coming,
thing
Garden.
about living out where he's going is that he will save so much in rent and mortgage that he can go about anywhere in the world for vacation 3 times a year.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
So most of the days he really can't go out and do a whole lot that he can't do around Nebraska. But when it comes time that that fourth month comes in and he's got that 4 months of saving, bang, it could be anywhere. It could be Hawaii. It could be the Arctic.
Which will be awesome because then I could just do stuff and film it, live stream it, have conversations
Mm-hmm.
about it. I'm not constrained by.
Well, you don't have $600,000 a year in mortgage.
Yeah, that too.
I mean, you could actually buy probably 10 decent houses per year on what you're going to save.
Yeah, I don't want to go through that headache.
Well, I mean, you get one messy, you don't clean it, you just get another one. Just like the other Nebraskan. Now, there's another frugal Nebraskan there to take note.
Who? Oh yeah, yeah,
Warren Buffett.
yeah. I'm
Why
sure.
is he there?
Well, he's frugal Nebraskan, covert con artist. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he's got all the money that he needs. And he says Nebraska's a great place to live for him. He's right by the airport. Bang, he's off of one of his jets, flies over one of his bigger jets, and flies to another bigger jet and goes where he wants to go.
Yeah, by the time he gets caught up in the charges, he can already get to the airport and out of the country quick.
Yeah. And nobody knows which airplane he's switching to.
Yeah.
But the funny
He's
thing
probably
is,
got his own private one sitting there somewhere, registered under somebody else or something else or a corporation.
I've seen pictures
He's
where
probably got a backup plan to get the fuck out of there quick.
yeah, I've seen pictures where he has a lot of people come to visit him. And he tends to take his meetings out to public street benches. And somebody caught a picture of him and Paul McCartney just talking out on a bench watching the traffic drive by. Where in a bigger city, people would be all over them.
Yeah.
Sitting out there in just some street in Nebraska, not even like the fanciest street in town. Just pop down, let's work outside today. And only one person obviously figured out who it was sitting there on that bench. And I'm sure that happens with all kinds of people. He probably just enjoys that. Like Dan Aykroyd came to Webster City once when I was there. And just to have fun with everybody, he was giving out tickets to a movie that was playing that he was in. And nobody noticed it. I walked right in, walked right up, walked right up to my seat. And afterwards, it was on the news of, pictures of people walking in that didn't know he was there.
Well, Dan Aykroyd's really good at disguising himself. I don't know if you've ever seen like pictures of him out and about.
Yeah, but back then he wasn't disguised.
Oh, he just looked like him.
You just don't expect it, so you're not looking for it.
A lot of celebrities have gotten pretty skilled at that, and they know all like makeup people and techniques and all this other crap. There's a lot of times when I've heard stories that people didn't realize there was a celebrity there, and then there it turns out there was. You just don't see them. Like what's the geez, I can't remember that guy's name. He's an electronic music artist, but he was at a comedy club I was at. Didn't know it until we left.
Trent Reznor.
No, it was what's his stage name? Tiesto. I can't remember his real name.
Of course, the two guys from Daft Punk probably go everywhere and nobody knows them.
Yeah, well, of course. All right, so since you guys came on, are you gonna go on James' channel, Garden, later tonight?
Yeah, depending on what I get done here, I'm on an all-night monitoring
Okay.
gig.
So Kevin and Snork, I want your opinion. Huxley versus Orwell in 2018. Where are we more likely closer to?
I can't remember which one was Huxley.
Brave New World.
Oh, I think we're much closer to Orwell.
Really? Ah, wow.
Well, maybe I'm wrong.
Have you read either of them, Snork?
I don't know for the
Long time ago. I have problems remembering which stories are which. Orwell, it gets kind of hard to remember which of his is going on.
Orwell thing is more creepy government intrusive lying, and the Huxley thing, from what I remember, is more of the slowly flood them and manipulate and twist them sort of idea.
Yeah, and I probably have mixed up with the psychic dogs one. So
Psychic dogs.
I don't know what one that is.
I think you've been out in the middle of nowhere, Iowa, too long, Snork.
yeah.
The psychic cat.
He's upstairs asleep.
He'll come down. He's psychic. He'll know we're talking about him.
Yeah, but no, you just never know what the government control. People are so easily manipulated, and so much of what we do is manipulated, and nobody even realizes the manipulation.
Kevin, what are your thoughts? Kevin?
I don't know, when it comes to the military sort of apparatus, it resembles the Orwell thing to a degree.
Yeah.
The propagandized media and the pushing out disinformation kind of matches the Brave New World. So, I mean, there's similarities of both, but it does seem like the military read 1980 or read Orwell and decided, hey, we can use this.
Yeah.
That's what it almost seems like, because sometimes it's just to the point like, are you fucking kidding me? This can't. It's like, really, I think, did you literally tear a page out the book? We're doing this.
Yeah.
You know.
That's what. Yeah, it does feel like that. It's like, hey, what's our war plan for Syria again? It's like, give them a book. It's 1984. That's what it feels like. It's serious. I mean, that's their blueprint. But same question I want to ask you two. Oh, that I asked Garden. If you had to pick, which one would you rather live in? Brave New World or 1984?
I remember Brave New World as being pretty bleak, but I don't really remember the entire plot line.
Both of them were pretty bleak.
Yeah.
I mean, you have about an equalness in bleakness.
It's just
the Orwellian problem, though, is that it would normally collapse eventually. Of course, a collapse of a technologically aware society is not going to be as easy as the collapse of Rome.
Yeah, you got nuclear missiles sitting in silos, and hundreds of them. So just imagine, I mean, I said it before, the nuclear winter thing, if it happens, it's going to be by random chance. It's just going to be one of our own going off.
The biggest problem is not firing them. The biggest problem is they need to be maintained.
Yeah. Just randomly goes off in a silo. Somebody thinks we did a first strike because that's our policy, and fuck. Then we start a real war. And it ends real fast.
Well, now, Ebon, you're in Indiana?
Yep, we're in Mishawaka or something.
Okay, but you're going to be through Iowa tomorrow.
Yeah, we're going to pretty much make it to Omaha by the end of like 5 or 6 p.m. probably.
Yeah, I probably won't get to see you until the next trip then.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, once we're settled in, taking a trip out to where you are should be a big deal.
Or maybe even Des Moines.
Yeah.
So your kids can have something to see.
Des Moines.
Oh, Des Moines has like one of the nicest capitals in the country.
Really?
It also has a strange museum that has things like Iowa was attacked by the Japanese in World War II, and they've got the bomb. 2 of them.
One of the Airstream balloons.
One of the balloon bombs.
crazy.
That's about it. That's a really small museum.
See, I've only driven kind of through and past Des Moines, and it just looked not very interesting. But
The
maybe I'm wrong.
the Capitol building is a fun thing to go. But wouldn't be the only thing you do there that day. If anything, I do it on a cold day when the kids need to get out and play and need to feel some warm atmosphere, and you can't make it to Hawaii that day. It has a nice arboretum that has a pretty big dome, like the Nebraska thing has. It's not as big as Nebraska's, but it's always nice being able to stretch out and actually have some warm air beside you. But again, like I said, a place called Hy-Vee, it's bulk food aisle, great place to feed the kids. Let them graze.
We've seen it.
They get them all the way out there?
No. We've been visiting Omaha since I met my wife.
Okay.
Yeah. So I know all about Hy-Vee. Their pizza's pretty good. Their take-home and bake pizza. If you haven't tried it, it's good.
Yeah.
Okay, we diverged again.
Well, as far as Brave New World and like bleakness, I mean, the thing about the difference between the two is in 1984 the bleakness is overt, whereas in Brave New World it isn't. It's like sugar-coated rot.
Yeah.
But there's a good commonality between both.
Yeah, I mean, they both are bleak, and they both reflect highly controlled totalitarian type societies.
Small group, all the cash, all the influence, all the power, fucking over a large group. That's basically the subtext to both of them.
Yeah. But we have a lot of people playing roles that they don't know what they're playing. People become aware. Well, wait a minute. That whole gang that I was in was it banged by Soros? Or realization that an organization that you thought was to prevent another takeover of the Democratic Party was just
meant to actually do that.
Yeah.
It's literally they put on the face, oh, we're gonna help things, and then it's completely organized, and every action they do is I can't say the word. The opposite of what their intention, or not even their intentions. Their intentions were hidden.
Yeah. Well, specifically the one that's the resistance. The one we're trying to resist is one that says she's the resistance. So, I got my refrigerator hooked up today, so I'm happy.
Please tell me you don't have a smart fridge.
No.
Okay.
I have a pure water fridge.
Okay, because I've seen people get the fridges with, it's like the Internet of Things needs a line. Your fridge does not need a fucking Wi-Fi connection.
It doesn't?
So I think their step was trying to make like a smart fridge or an AI fridge. So like if it kind of notices what you have in your fridge, and if it's gone, it's saying like your milk is getting low. You should buy more milk.
Or it's getting old. Yeah.
Or there you go.
Alexa,
We'll even subsidize the purchase of this smart fridge and put advertisements across the front.
Yeah, it would be like Walmart has it on sale for $1.99.
Yeah. Now you could combine that with all the data they use, and you basically that's horrible. No.
Would you like to auto order it on Amazon? We get it to you in 2 hours.
There is an Amazon barcode reader.
Yeah.
And everything that if you use cans, you're supposed to scan them and toss them, and it reorders the cans for you.
Goodness. It's like eventually people are going to be so used to it that they go, how do we order online again?
Automation complacency.
Yeah. It's it's the same way like our phones. Does anyone know anyone else's phone by memory? I don't. And
I know a good chunk, but I mean I've memorized quite a few numbers.
Yeah.
But it's I mean whenever I don't know. I back them up and write them down.
Yeah.
Just for the fact the damn phones take a shit all the time.
Yeah. So we're getting to that point where we're gonna get so used to doing things an easier way that we're gonna forget how to do things the hard way or the manual way. Like that's kind of the one things I want to do, get back into the basics again. Just kind of like anyone who's in professional sports. If they want to get better, what do? They go back to the basics. They brush up on the basics, clean it up, and then they could go on. So that's kind of what I feel like I'm kind of doing in Nebraska. Is start over, get back to the basics, brush that up, then go crazy.
I don't have a talking toilet. That's in the chat. My toilet will flush on voice command, but it won't talk back. It doesn't make any crude comments.
Well, I can see a scenario like you guys have watched Black Mirror.
Does it
right?
give you advertising for toilet paper?
No,
Not yet, at least.
No, it doesn't. Doesn't even get me. Is that all you got?
So
Are you sure? Or you don't want to waste water. You know, comments like that. Your toilets. You flush too many times.
so
Well,
go ahead.
the first 3 flushes are all gray water. They're using wastewater for my water purification system. And after that, it switches over to tap water.
That's kind of
I'm
cool.
guessing there's some sort of reserve thing.
Yeah. And I might cut that back. It's reprogrammable. I might try to make it go 6-1. I'm not sure.
We'll see. You may have to show me that, although I don't know if I want to know that. But
Well, using gray water to flush, at least you're repurposing the water.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, you end up with the same net contamination.
Yeah. Overall, it all goes down the same drain, except for you get to use less clean water to flush your toilet,
And now
or none.
Now I got ultra pure water for my ice, which means that I need to bang on the refrigerator a few times a day, and I know the kids will do that for me.
Yeah. And the add-on to that would be your biodigester you'd add on to the main drain that comes down. You know, minus, you got to be careful about shampoos and sulfurs and stuff like that you're putting into it. But besides that, any like food waste or even a little bit of dish soap isn't the worst possible thing, as long as it's used and it's a small amount.
Well, as long as you dilute it with enough water, it's okay.
Yeah, because you got to be worried about if you put any kills 99.9% of bacteria, that biodigester is going to take a crap.
Okay, guys. All right. So James has started his show. Garden, you're asking if we watched Black Mirror. I watched the entire first season a couple years ago, and the first episode of the second season, maybe a few weeks back. Well, where are you going with that?
Well, the quick point I was going to make is I could eventually see a scenario developing where I forget which episode it is. I think it was 15 Million Merits was the name of the episode, where everyone's stuck on these damn bikes and they're forced to live in these little cubes and stuff. So, but the part of the scenario I'm talking about is the forced viewing of content, okay, or the forced messaging. You can buy a smart fridge or a smart toilet, and if you want, it's going to start off and if you want $100 reduction in the price, you're going to let this thing spew messages or whatever at you whenever it wants to.
Yeah.
And eventually that might develop into there is no choice. It's going to spew messages at you.
Yeah.
Period.
I think part of that episode you couldn't turn it off, or it takes credits to turn it off. So basically, what people do is they switch to a different channel. It's almost the same thing. Like you can't have that peace of mind with not being able to watch anything. But yeah, we should have Black Mirror episode discussions, because that would be interesting, because they definitely dwell on dystopian futures.
Yeah, I only watched the first season. I haven't finished with the something. I forgot which one I'm watching now. One with James Spader.
With James Spader?
Yeah.
Yeah, what is the name of that? I haven't watched it, but I've seen the ads.
I don't know. Anyways, we'll end it there. We could continue it at James's snark if we remember. All right. Thanks, Garden. Thanks, snark.
See you guys later.
Thanks, Garden. Thanks, Kevin. Thanks, everybody else.
Have a safe trip, dude. Are you going to come on James' stream or what are you doing?
Yeah, I'll come on for a bit.
All right.
All right.